Question is, do you see cryptocurrency actually replacing dollar bills? I don't think that there's ever going to be a time where governmental controlled money completely goes away. And the reason is because we have to have something of value, and we believe what the value is generally speaking, governmental currency. But I think cryptocurrency can form a basis by which we can transact without middlemen, thereby reducing costs, with the basis that we purchase that cryptocurrency with hard dollars. And so I don't think the dollar will necessarily go away, but I think cryptocurrency will allow for a greater globalization of the economy.
In my view, we still argue about dollar on gold standard. Heard that 3 days ago. So whether the dollar will ever become a cryptocurrency, who knows? It's impossible to forecast it. But one thing is clear, internationally, where there are no U.S. banking regulations, the world became a much smaller place when cryptocurrency emerged. Now, it's inconsistent, and you don't know what it's worth quite yet, but if you jump ahead a half a decade to a decade, it's going to definitely, either the dollar is going to become more cryptocurrency friendly and oriented in nature, or this idea of holding a piece of paper called a dollar, I think, become less significant. Yeah.
What about this mining, Chris, Bitcoin or
things?
So
we've done that.
Sort of, you know, it has a different origin, whether it came in, and why did they just say, hey, here's the Bitcoin, the guy put it together, and why do they need to keep making more?
So the question is about mining of cryptocurrency, and we'll talk about that in a second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to explain that to you going back to our original example of the house that I was purchasing from Chris. Now let's try to take and buy that house with a blockchain. I said, you know, it can apply across so many different avenues. Well, imagine that Chris has title to the home. So what's he do? He records it on the blockchain. So now there's a transaction on a list that says Chris owns the house at this address. That's his title. And then all kinds of transactions occurred after that. Jack bought a coffee. Someone else bought a car. And each time those transactions occurred, it said Chris owns title. And then all the transactions thereafter. And they continue to happen. Now, years down the line, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of transactions that have occurred. And they always say, Chris owned title. That's what they said at the beginning of all of them. Chris owned title, or somewhere within them. That's really important now. I don't need to go to a title company. Chris has owned title to this house for so long. No one's challenged it, right? So I have my cryptocurrency now, and I want to go there and I want to buy Chris's house. I can just transfer him the cryptocurrency and the title will automatically come to me. And not only that, that exchange is now going to get recorded on the blockchain. So it's going to show that I now own title to the home and Chris owns some amount of cryptocurrency. And that's going to get recorded over and over and over and over and over again. So we're going to have some assurance that I own the title. Now, the problem is this. If we're going to re-record all of these transactions, every time a new transaction occurred, we're going to run into a problem really fast, which is when Jack conducts a transaction and I conduct a transaction and Chris conducts a transaction, how do we know to update the list with all of these different things? Like, I could be conducting a transaction at this identical time that Jack is conducting a transaction. And so where in the list does it go? Does it say Jack conducted one first and then I conducted one? Or can I get away with sneaking one in without anybody knowing? And that's what mining did. What mining does is it's actually just a way to queue up all of the transactions in order. So when Jack conducts a transaction on the blockchain, it's just an algorithm that spends a bunch of time putting everything in order. And the mining machines are just solving a complex problem that puts all of these transactions in order so the list is always the same across a bunch of servers.
So think of it this way, one thing though, think of it this way. There is no central authority. Mining is very similar to point of sale services, what they are in the credit card world. Think of that. You go to a retail outlet, you use your credit card, they swipe it, your bank debits and the money flows and the merchant gets paid and there's a settlement. That's how it works. All mining is the resolution of the ledger among all the people. Because there is no central, Bitcoin headquarters, here it is. No, it's done in a ledger that we all share. It's peer-to-peer data sharing, and mining is the resolution of that. Yeah, go ahead.
Doesn't mining also create more more value or more Bitcoins?
No, so what it is if you have this, there's
Good question.
Repeat the
the
question.
question is, doesn't mining create more Bitcoins and more value? No. A lot of people think that mining is you're actually like going to a mine.
It's a misnamed concept.
And you're digging in there, you get your ice pick, and you're finding these little Bitcoins, and you're putting them in your wallet. That's not quite how it works. As you can imagine, like I said, you have all these transactions occurring, and somebody has to queue them up. Somebody has to make sure that list is the same across all of these servers. So you have these mining machines, they're just solving a complex algorithm. What happened was you could have a central authority that says, I'm gonna be in charge, all transactions come through my server, I'm gonna be in charge of all of them, I'm gonna queue them up. But that defeats the purpose of Bitcoin.
Bank of
in the first
America
place,
does
right?
that,
Well,
and Chase does that.
well, I don't want a bank doing that. The whole purpose of this is that I can transact without having that central authority. So how do we do it? So what they said is, well, people can volunteer. They can volunteer to solve these problems and queue them up, okay? Well, if you're volunteering, you're spending energy, the cost of power. So as a reward for mining, we're going to give you some of the pool of Bitcoin. And so there's some number of Bitcoin that were reserved for miners. They're not creating anything. All they're doing is they're serving a fundamental purpose in allowing the network to work. And by doing so, they reserved some number and they're given some portion of a reward. Now, as that number decreases and the number of miners increase, that reward value decreases. And it's as the value of the Bitcoin goes up and you're getting just a small portion of a Bitcoin for mining, well, people are still okay doing it. And so that's, the system kind of balances itself out. But there's no machine that's creating this virtual token.
Right.
All it is there's some allocated amount that you're getting, a miner is getting as a reward. And all they're doing is running their machine to provide computing power. And that computing power across the network jointly is used to queue up all of the transactions. That's all. It's never created new value.
That's a great question you asked, and that is the thing. It's all you are when you're a miner. You're a data processing outlet for a ledger or a blockchain, and you get paid a service fee for transacting the business. It's that simple.
Could a parallel be, these scooters that you can ride, where some people take them home and plug them in, and they're
Yes.
able to enjoy a...
Peer-to-peer, yes.
That's a great parallel. That there's not a company that's going out and picking up the scooters. Rather, this
In some
new
cases, but not
program.
all.
Yeah, a new program where people can grab them. Now, there's another question.
A miner is a physical server farm or something, and how do they synchronize?
So the question is, what is a miner essentially, and how do they synchronize together?
Great question.
A miner is, there's different kinds of mining machines. Typically, they're made up of a series of graphics cards. They found that graphics cards tend to be better in computing power for the type of algorithm that you need to solve to queue up these transactions. And the technical, it's like an MD5 checksum that you're running over and over again to find out, what it is. Well, how do they synchronize together? They don't necessarily have to. What happens is each individual miner could be trying to solve the same problem as any other mining machine is trying to solve. And everybody's trying to solve the same problem. As soon as someone says, I solved it, and I solved it means I found that there's a transaction occurring between Jack and someone else. It puts that transaction on the list, right? As soon as that happens, and all the lists are instantly updated. Well, what people have done since then is they form mining pools, and the mining pools allow this joint computing power to be used to solve these transactions quickly and get the rewards. And then the rewards are distributed across those pools. But there's no need to synchronize necessarily all these miners. All that you connect into the network, and all you have to do is basically say, I solved the problem. And as soon as the problem is solved, the network is reporting, and there's a Bitcoin network, and there's an Ethereum network, and there's all these different networks that you report that to. And the blockchain records that transaction immediately, saying that, yes, this problem has been solved, record it on the blockchain. And that's what's happening.